And welcome, everyone. We have the sports writers here. Nick Kukaru, sports editor of the Gloucester Times. Phil Stacey, executive sports editor of the Salem News. Matt Williams, the assistant sports editor at the News. And Nick Giannino from the Salem News team. And gentlemen, we have a number of things to talk about. Super Bowl football, Thanksgiving football. And then I thought we could start off, as we did last week, with non-football, because we had several teams from the North Shore participating in the state championships this past weekend. And Phil, maybe I'll let you kind of MC this little piece here, because I know you know who covered what and who might want to weigh in on different things. But how about starting with Hamilton Wenham girls soccer?
Guys? Yeah, that's good. Willie did a lot of them, and Nick did the finals. So, Willie, you want to start with their season?
Oh, I mean, they, 18-1-2. That's one of the great records in the history of the North Shore. I mean, that Peabody team that won the D1 title was undefeated, but the Danvers team that won the title had more than one loss. I think the Masco team that won the title in the 80s had more than one loss. So I think totality-wise, you look at 18-1-2. I mean, that's one of the great soccer teams in the history of the North Shore. I think this is a team that could have played with anybody, tremendous defense that doesn't get enough credit, that played great on the finals on Saturday with Collins and Chapdelaine back there. And, the dynamic duo at the top. I mean, we were saying Coach Waddell has not had a 20-goal scorer in her whole time at Hamilton Wenham. And this year she had two of them in Claire Nistel, who was Miss Clutch, scored a ton in the playoffs, and her running mate Jane McGuire. So, just a fantastic team. And, obviously all respect to Cohasset, which was a great team, a great opponent. I was talking, now that it's over, I can say this out of turn, the AD, Craig Genualdo, was texting me on Saturday morning, oh, who's covering the game? Nick, I said, Nick's going to be there. He likes to sit inside in the warm. And so I got the outdoor assignment. But I said, the Generals are going to win. And he was maybe a little trepidatious about it. I said, Craig, I told you 2 months ago this team was going to win the state title, and I mean, the first time I saw this team play was against Essex Tech, and I wasn't covering the game. I was just there to get some notes for a column, and I watched them for 10 minutes, and I said, well, this team's, in Division 4, there's no way that anybody in Division 4 is beating this team. And, it came true, and all credit to them. I think Nancy Waddell is one of the great soccer coaches in the state. It doesn't get enough credit. I mean, she's so humble. I just discovered this week that she coached Wellesley to a Division 2 title back in 2004 before she moved up here and had her family. So she's got to have a couple hundred wins on her resume, and really is a tremendous coach and a better person. Nick can speak to this a little bit too, but it was one of those teams that you just felt really good to be around, just a class act from top to bottom. And so, some teams they win and you feel, that's good, or, oh, they're talented. But this team was really deserving, I thought, and just really a class bunch and a pleasure to be around.
Yeah, I think Willie hit all the points. Obviously having been covering them all season long, this was actually for the state championship. That was the first time I had seen them, believe it or not. I, obviously did a lot of boys soccer this year, but I was very impressed with them. I thought they deserved the win. They scored early in that game against Cohasset, a team that hadn't allowed a lot of goals. They were the top seed, hadn't allowed a lot of goals, scored a lot of goals on the other end. And Hamilton Wenham came out firing. Claire Nistel got the opener in the first half, and it remained 1-0 for pretty much the whole game, until stoppage time in the second half. And Cohasset was finally able to punch one home, and it could have went south from there really quick. They grabbed all the momentum, tied it up, and we went into overtime. And then no more than 2 minutes into overtime, and we had an extra long overtime for the championship. They did 15-minute frames instead of the 10 minutes that we've been used to. So they only needed about 1 minute and 50 seconds of that, though, and Claire broke free on a breakaway, beat 3 defenders, and booted one home for the game winner. So it was exciting and well-deserved. I thought, Willie touched on it a little bit there, but their defense in particular was super impressive. You mentioned Chapdelaine, and they got a lot of girls back there. Libby Collins was really good. I could go on and on, but they they kept a dangerous scoring Cohasset team off the board for pretty much the entire game, which was very impressive. And their midfield play was great. They moved the ball well. They were, patient on the attack. So well deserved. And to have 220 goal scorers in one season, like Willie said, is pretty incredible. So they definitely had balance up top, and they're going to miss those girls next year. But with Waddell as a coach, and the program's certainly going in the right direction now. That was their first ever state title. So it's going to be exciting to see what they can do moving forward here after losing some of those seniors.
Believe it or not, just a quick stat, they haven't given up 3 goals in a game since back in 2019. They went 7-1-2 last year with 8 shutouts in 10 games. So in a regular year last year, there's an outside chance they could have been back-to-back champs. So that was one of the reasons I loved them so much coming into this year, was how great they were in that short season last year too. I mean, that defense is incredible. Haven't given up 2 goals in a game since late September. Only did it twice this year, and haven't given up 3 in 2.5 full years. I mean, that's pretty good soccer.
Yeah, Nora Gamber was another girl back there that did very well, and Krista Coffey. Let's see, am I missing anyone here? Well, obviously the goalie too, Stuart Bernard. I mean, she was terrific. She didn't face a ton of shots, but played smart, played intelligent. Led from the back there, and like Willie said, they didn't allow many goals this year. I don't know how many. I'd have to look at their schedule, Willie, but maybe 7, 8, 9 goals, somewhere around there for the whole season. Let in
something like that. Yeah, not bad. So
great
for them. Maybe
Chloe Gurn, Nick.
Chloe Gurn as well. Yep, she was.
Yeah, I remember seeing her name in a lot of Willie's stories.
She did a lot of defensive midfield tactics. And this in the championship game, neither team had a ton of serious scoring chances. Like I said, Nissel had the game winner on a breakaway, but a lot of the play was carried out near midfield. Both teams just kind of battling for possession and trying to move the ball upfield. So it was an exciting game in that regard.
Up the road, their Cape Ann League rivals, Ipswich, had 2 state finals on Saturday. I don't know if you want to start with the field hockey, Phil, or if we should start with the volleyball, but pretty good day to be one of those Cape Ann League rivals with 3 state championships all on Saturday.
You know what? Let's start with the volleyball, because then we can get Kooks involved with the field hockey, where Manchester Essex played Uxbridge, the team that Ipswich faced in the finals. Manchester faced them in the semifinals. So the volleyball team first. Great year for them. Obviously, they were the top seed in Division 4 and ran the table, won their first ever state championship. And let me say too, I think by and large, for all the opinions that were out there in regards to the state's new playoff system and power rankings and all, I think you got to give it to the MIAA. We give it to them when they do things wrong, but you got to do the same thing when they do something right. And, they nailed a lot of these power rankings. I mean, I think you saw in the semifinals a lot of, 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds, or 1, 2, 3, 5, in some cases or whatever. But I think the finals almost across the board was some combination of the top 4 seeds. So I think they did pretty well there. So as I said, Ipswich was the top seed here. They had a great state semifinal against Advanced Math and Science, where they won 3-2. Then they get to win to the final up at Tewksbury Saturday against Medway. 2 close games to start things off. They win both of those to take a 2-0 lead. Then they roll in the third game, 25-16 over the Tri-Valley League champs to bring home that title. Terrific win for the program, for the school, for head coach Stacy Sonke. She's done a great job with that program. You have, let me think, you got the O'Flynn sisters there at Hamilton. You got Claire and Tessa, who is the younger of the two. You get
at Ipswich, you mean, right?
Yeah, at Ipswich. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Hamilton Wenham.
Hamilton Wenham. She's getting my Cape Ann League Division 4 champions mixed up here.
Phil, we had you headed north on 1A, but then all of a sudden you U-turned on us and headed back down south. So
who else? You get Liz Linkletter, the senior co-captain with Claire. O'Flynn had a great game. Who am I forgetting here? Kendra Brown, Ellis Stein, Sorensen. Guys, what's her name? Sorensen.
Grace, I think.
Grace, yes, thank you. Hey, a dominant performance by them. really, we got some great photos. I mean, we had great photos in our newspaper from all the weekend's games, but Jim Campos, we should mention him. He's our staff photographer, does a great job. He got so many terrific, both action and reaction shots from that game. It was just a really nice thing for the community of Ipswich. And, I was talking with the athletic director, Tom Gallagher, this morning, just kind of reliving the weekend. And I said, boy, Tom, two teams in the state finals for a school the size of Ipswich. It's not like you're St. John's Prep over there. That gets the, reams of great athletes in all sports. You're one town, one trick pony here. And he says, yeah, the scheduling of, the way that the MIAA has rearranged the divisions and whatnot has been very good to Ipswich, especially on the girls' side. So congrats to the volleyball team. Cooks, you want to pick up field hockey, and then I'll jump back in with Ipswich in the title game?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know we got to shoehorn me in here with all these Cape Ann teams getting flattened pretty early in the tournament. But Manchester Essex field hockey was not the case there, but they kind of lost handily in the semifinals last week to the same Uxbridge team that beat Ipswich. Something like Ipswich matched up a lot better with them than Manchester Essex. I mean, that was just kind of a really tough matchup for them. I mean, Uxbridge kind of played the same style that the Hornets play. They like that real, possession-based, very aggressive. Manchester Essex hadn't allowed any goals heading into that game, but they were much more of an offensive team than a defensive team. And it's kind of through possession. They don't really let teams handle the ball much. And Uxbridge, was the same way, and they were just better at it than them. I mean, they could move the ball quickly. They kind of took advantage of it. Manchester Essex has really two girls that kind of bring the ball up for them, and Uxbridge kind of marked both of them and, just kind of smothered them with possession all game. And it, led to constant scoring chances. I think Ipswich is a little more defensive minded, and I think that kind of led to, a much more competitive game in the state final. But yeah, I mean, it was, Uxbridge got what they deserved, it sounds like, in both games.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't think it's going out on a limb to say that Uxbridge was the better team in the state final. Little more skilled, definitely faster, terrific precision passes. They moved the ball upfield very well. They transitioned well from defense the few times that they had to play defense to offense. They put a lot of pressure on Ipswich. I thought the Ipswich goalie, senior captain Morgan Bodwell, had a great game. 7 saves. She was under pretty constant pressure throughout. Although I will say, Ipswich made some strong adjustments before the start of the second quarter. They relieved a lot of that pressure. Consequently, Uxbridge made some halftime adjustments to create more pressure in the third quarter. Led to a couple corners. The second one of those, there was a ball at the corner post. The defender placed her hand over the ball. Penalty stroke was called. 8th grader for Uxbridge gets the call to take the penalty stroke, Amelia Blood, and she shot it home. She was 3 for 3 this year, I guess, on penalty strokes.
She got one against
top
Manchester
scores.
too.
I'm sorry?
She got one against Manchester too.
Oh, she did? Okay. So, yeah, she had the hot hand in the playoffs, obviously. Ipswich probably played its best ball, Bill, in the fourth quarter. They ratcheted up the intensity. They hadn't had a corner for the first 3 quarters, and they got a couple in the fourth quarter. One was steered away, but one they kind of made something happen with, like, Chloe Pizzeni getting it to Lexi James over to Linda Rutenberg for a shot that sailed just wide. Pizzeni had a shot earlier that missed just by a few inches. Same with Lexi James. So fantastic year for Ipswich. 18-2-1, their first state title appearance. Cape Ann League champions, beat Manchester twice. They're going to graduate. Seniors, what would you say? Lexi James, Bodwell, Julia Mosley's the other captain. You got Azriela Stage. You got Faith DeBauer. Rutenberg, she's an exchange student from the Netherlands. She'll be gone, as well as a junior, Ella Vogler, who's an exchange student from Germany. But there's still a lot of talent back on this team. The Flather sisters will be back. Haley Greenleaf will be back. So, the cupboard won't be bare in Ipswich. And terrific postseason run for them. Their coach, also in her first season, Nikki Pignoni, former Ipswich player, to get her team into the state final. What a remarkable accomplishment that was. And, hey, think about it. it was a penalty stroke that decided a state champion from the state runner-up. I don't think Ipswich has anything to hang their heads about. They had a fantastic season and they played very well against one of the state's best teams for the title.
All right, so here's what I think we should do. Let's talk Thanksgiving football, but we'll mention here, depending on how much time we have left, knowing that we can talk about this on our next podcast. But you've got Marblehead in the D3 Super Bowl, you've got Swampscott North Reading in the D5 Super Bowl. But let's go to Thanksgiving, the big old-time rivalry matchup with Swampscott Marblehead. Now, we've given the credit to the MIAA for their playoffs, but you know, the old football playoffs, you know, I don't have a gripe with this, but you have two undefeated teams, Marblehead and Swampscott, meeting on Thanksgiving Day, and the game really doesn't mean anything, you know, because which is too bad.
For the conference title.
Well,
too,
this
right?
is where I'm going, Phil. You know, we can talk about it. Yeah, I can say it doesn't mean anything for playoffs, but on the other hand, you know, it is the rivalry game. So I guess I'm trying to come around here on this piece because, you know, in all other sports too, when you think about it, you know, like in the ACC basketball, for example, who cares who wins the regular season? Who cares who nowadays who wins the ACC playoffs, the tournament? It's how you do in the NCAA's later on. That's what it has evolved into, I guess.
Right.
So I guess, you know, it's just another way of thinking. It's too bad Thanksgiving football. It was probably only a handful of times that the Thanksgiving game for teams really meant a lot on playoffs. But here you got two undefeated teams, both well-deserving to go to the playoffs, Coach Rudloff of Marblehead and Coach Serino from Swampscott. But I guess your take, let's start right there with Marblehead, Swampscott. What do we look for on Thanksgiving between these two teams, both playoff Super Bowl bound?
I can start if no one else wants to.
No one else wants to, Phil.
Well, I'll chip in real quick, Phil. You know,
Thank you.
I just want to say for Swampscott and Marblehead, I think it's a pride game. You know, this is something that down the road, especially the seniors, are going to have bragging rights for whoever wins this game. And the other thing too, Swampscott's Division 5 and
Yep.
Marblehead's Division 3. So just for a Division 5 team to beat a Division 3 team, both undefeated, I mean, that would carry a lot of weight, I think. I know obviously the playoffs are more important and that they're going to be going for the Super Bowl win. And, you know, after a week after this game's played, they're probably going to just be focused on the Super Bowl and that's all that's going to matter. But I do think down the road, they might look back at that game and say, oh, well, you know, we were Division 5. We beat the Division 3 team. We were both undefeated at the time. We kept the undefeated record. That's to say if Swampscott wins this. And I do think it's going to be a shootout, and I'll let you pick up, Phil. I think Swampscott definitely is capable of playing with the
Phil, before you go, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what I said here. I don't mean to say that it won't count. I mean, but in a way it doesn't. But I think the way they have the playoffs this year, it's not like they're going to have to play right away after Thanksgiving. They've got time.
Correct.
They've got another week before they play, which is good. So I think that with these two programs, with these two coaches, I think they will put it on the line on Thanksgiving. That's my guess. You know what I mean? Because remember, we've seen games in the past where teams don't play their starters. They don't care. They're headed to they're headed to the Super Bowl. And I'm saying I don't think this will be that case this year. But yet, on the other hand, who knows?
No, I mean, look, on the one hand, both teams are going to be playing 3 games in 13 days. That's a lot of football, you know, for teams that, you know, even if you're no chance of missing the game, you know, you're going to play, you're still banged up or tweaked in one way or another. I mean, nobody that plays any significant minutes is going to be completely healthy this time of year. So that's a lot of football. We should put that on the table right off the bat. Having said that, I think I want to say not that it doesn't matter to Marblehead, because it does. They obviously want to beat Swampscott. But I think it really matters for Swampscott. And I'll tell you why. They've lost 10 of the last 12 games to, 12 of the last 14 to Marblehead. They've lost 10 in a row to Marblehead. I mean, that's a ton in this series. Now, that includes a couple of instances where they played twice in the same year, in, I think, 13-14. But even if you toss that out, that's 8 in a row on the holiday, including the fall two back in April. But there's been a lot of losses to Marblehead. I mean, you know, hey, Salem lost all those games. We talked a month ago about how Salem had lost, 18 in a row to Gloucester. but they're not Thanksgiving rivals whose towns are right next to each other. And you got to hear that all the time. Bobby Serino, for all the success he's had at Swampscott, one of the best coaches out there, Super Bowl champion, universally respected. He hasn't beaten Marblehead. And I know that, he's obviously cognizant of that. His players are certainly cognizant of that. And they want to beat Marblehead. And I honestly, truly believe them when they say the Super Bowl does not matter until Thanksgiving ends. Our complete focus is on beating Marblehead and doing whatever we need to do to beat Marblehead. They're at home. They're going to have a huge crowd there. I don't think we've ever had two undefeated teams. I don't know if ever in the state there's ever been two undefeated teams playing on Thanksgiving where both teams are going to a Super Bowl. I mean, there have been instances where like St. John's Prep and Xaverian were both undefeated on Thanksgiving back in '97, that epic game where you had like 9 guys who went on to play Division I college between the two teams. And, St. John's Prep wins by a point and they went to the Super Bowl as the Catholic Conference representative and Xaverian stayed home. But I don't think we've ever had unbeaten, and you already know you're going to the Super Bowl, play each other on Thanksgiving. So that makes it pretty special. Again, I guess it just depends on perspective or priority for terms of coaching staff. Is it more important to keep your players healthy and get ready for the Super Bowl so you're holding up that trophy at Gillette Stadium? Or is it more important to focus on beating your rival, staying unbeaten, and then worrying about the Super Bowl? I'm not part of each coaching staff. Neither is anybody here that I'm aware of. So we don't really know how it's going to go. But I have to think, at least for Swampscott, they are playing 100% to win this game.
And Phil, let's highlight those two teams have great coaching staffs from top to bottom. That's
they really do.
They really do. Both, the offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, the whole coaching staff on both those teams is fantastic.
Well, I'm going to let Willie chime in here too, but the two of us love to walk the sidelines whenever possible. I would much rather I like watching it from above, sometimes to get a peripheral view, but I really like being down on the ground level, covering games because you're around the teams and you hear what goes on during the game and whatnot. And, I usually, the press box in Marblehead is about the size of a mouse hole. So I never go up there. I always walk on the sidelines for those games, and got a chance to walk sidelines the other night for the Swampscott Fenwick Division 5 semifinal. And you really do see like the coaching that goes on during the game, in-game adjustments, slight variations, talking to players as they come off the field. I thought Bobby Serino had a terrific line to me. Willie, do you remember when they scored the touchdown that tied the game in the first half? But then was there a high snap on the extra point? They missed the extra point. Is that what it was caused by? Or was it like a late snap or something like that?
You'd have to consult the special teams coordinator. I guess they missed it anyway. Whatever it
was, they missed it. And Bobby Serino was furious. And I asked him afterwards about that, and he says, maybe we're just old school, in our thinking, but we demand excellence in all 3 phases. And he's like, if someone scores on us, we get upset. He didn't use the word upset, but you get what I'm saying. If we miss an extra point, we get upset. If we miss a blocking assignment, we get upset. So they place a lot of expectations on those kids, and hey, they deliver. They're 11-0. So I think that keeps them at that high level. I mean, Willie, you can talk about those coaching staffs too, just from roaming the sidelines.
Well, I just think, from a bragging rights standpoint, Swampscott's got a Super Bowl, right? So, but they haven't beat Marblehead, right? And that's the thing. Marblehead can look over there and say, yeah, you guys got a Super Bowl, but you didn't go through us to get it. And Swampscott can look back at them and say, yeah, maybe you beat us all the time, but you guys don't have the Super Bowl. You're 0-2 in the big game, And so I think that's something that is in play here as far as the bragging rights go. I think,
Swampscott's got 3 of them, right? 72,
well, I'm just
07,
saying,
and 19.
Well, I'm just saying since these coaching staffs kind of came together, right? No, I mean, all time Swampscott's got 5. In fact, Swampscott, this is going to be their 8th Super Bowl, which is the second most in the Northeastern Conference behind only Gloucester's 9. And, as long as they're in Division 5, they might pass Gloucester in the near future here, because besides Bishop Fenwick, I don't know they're going to get much resistance on their way to these Super Bowls in this structure here. And so I think that's a long way of saying, I think that it's possible that the way the schedule has played out works in Swampscott's favor in the sense that Marblehead, I think, and we can talk more about this next week, but I think Marblehead is going to face a much stiffer challenge in the Super Bowl than Swampscott will. And that might perhaps have to play into the way Marblehead has to approach this, but the other thing is, I mean, this long winning streak that Marblehead has over Swampscott, most of the games haven't even been close. Marblehead has gone over 30 points, I think, in 7 of those 10 wins or something of the like. I mean, there was a one-score game in 2019, but the rest of them haven't even been close. And so that plays.
And that was the year Swampscott won the Super Bowl, right? Didn't Marblehead score like a last-second touchdown to win that game?
They did, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it was a dramatic, meeting of the minds there at the end, that was. Marblehead had kind of stumbled at the end of the year, if you remember right. They lost their first NEC game in an age to Revere.
And then they got blown out by Classical in the playoffs.
Right, they got blown out by a Lynn team in a consolation game. They blew, bowed out of the playoffs. They may have even been upset in the first round. So they were staggering a little bit, or maybe it was a second round, because I think I remember I covered their win over in like Woburn or somewhere like that. But anyway, we've digressed. But nonetheless, I think not only has Marblehead won these games, but they've done so by scoring a ton of points. And for a team that's as defensively sharp as Swampscott, plays as angry as Swampscott, has a great coordinator in Peter Bush. I mean, so they're not fooling Coach Bush, right? They're just out muscling the guys and winning the battles for the loose balls there in the air. And so that's that's tough to swallow if you're the Big Blue. I mean, I know this rivalry goes all the way back to Toot Cahoon and Mike Lynch and Dick Lynch and just all the names, S.O. Haynes. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And, these guys, I guess I'll wrap up by saying, you got conference pride, right? I think sometimes when league rivals get to the Super Bowl, they'll be rooting for each other. And I just, I'm not certain that that's the case with these two. I think either one of them would be chuckling if the other were to lose.
I will say real quick that I just thought of, this might also be the first time in history we've ever had two teams that met not only in the same year, but back-to-back, holiday games, if you count the fall 2 season, when they were both unbeaten. When they played back in the spring, Marblehead was 6-0, and Swampscott had only played 3 games at that point, but they were 3-0 in their final game. So take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Certainly to end a season. Yeah. I mean, I think, maybe like in September we've had that, or, a couple of times like those Danvers Marblehead games at, week 4 or 5 or something, but certainly not, at the very last game. I mean, that's unheard of. And, Marblehead's win streak is up to what now? 18 or 19 or something.
19,
so
19 now, maybe. Yeah.
Swampscott that's just another carrot for Swampscott to chase. I mean, just another thing that they can hang the hats on. And I mean, you have to look at the running backs, right? Bascon versus Cronin. I mean, Cronin, I guess he's not technically a running back, but he 200 yards from scrimmage in that win over Westfield, abused Swampscott last year with 5 touchdowns. And, Baskin's been the engine for the Big Blue all year long, right? So the battle really within the battle is between those two guys.
We should segue because I know we're running out of time here, but Kooks, you want to talk about Gloucester Danvers?
Before you do that, maybe what I was thinking is watching the clock here is Nick, why don't you tell us about the game, but also tell us what's coming up in the paper this week. And Phil, you could do the same for the Salem News because we'll be able to cover some bases because I know the Monday Salem News has all kinds of reviews and previews already just in box form for the football this week. But tell us, Nick, what's coming up this week in the Times, and then for sure touch on the Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so Wednesday's paper will have kind of a straight preview of both games, kind of X's and O's, what both teams bring to the table, and then Thursday we'll bunch of reader boxes, stats, starting lineups, players to look out for, all that good stuff. And of course, the game on Thursday, 2 of them in my area. I know Both of them look like there is a significant favorite in them, and that's, obviously Danvers and Gloucester. Danvers has kind of owned Gloucester in recent years. I think they're going for their first ever four-game win streak over Gloucester.
Yeah.
I don't think they've beat them 3 times on Thanksgiving either. They've beaten them 3 times, but one of them was in the fall too. So they're kind of going to make history in that regard in multiple ways. And they're the heavy favorites to do so. They've been a little too physical for Gloucester the last couple of seasons. I kind of envision that again. And then you got Georgetown visiting Highland Field against Manchester Essex. That one looks about the same. I mean, Manchester Essex should be a heavy favorite in that one. They both play in the Commonwealth Conference. Manchester Essex can actually clinch the Commonwealth outright with a win. Commonwealth Small outright with a win. Right now they're even with Kip Academy, who they beat in Commonwealth action and lost to in playoff action. But Manchester Essex, despite that tough playoff performance, they're very good. And they should be able to handle, Georgetown. I know Georgetown just likes to throw the ball all over the place, and Manchester Essex has athletes in the secondary, should be able to handle that. Not too difficult.
I heard Nick today that Danvers on Thanksgiving is going to be dedicating a bench to former football coach and athletic director John Sullivan,
Nice.
who passed away within the last year. They bought a commemorative bench. They're going to have a little ceremony, with his accomplishments. And of course, longtime fans will remember he coached Danvers to its first Northeastern Conference title in 63 years back in 2004. They beat unbeaten Gloucester. You weren't on that team, Nick, right? You had graduated by then.
No, I was a few years out by then.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was
that was one of the great ever Danvers side wins. Back
came out in the spread, and they weren't worried. They weren't ready for it, and it worked.
That's right. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to, remember John in that way.
Mm-hmm.
In the Salem news, we got a lot of stuff coming up. We got 8 Thanksgiving Day games to take a look at. So we're going to break it down: 4 on Wednesday, another 4 on Thursday to get you ready for wherever you are going to be at. Let's see if we go across the board. We got Essex Tech at Northeast, St. John's Prep at Zavarian, Bishop Fenwick is hosting Malden Catholic, Hamilton and Ipswich renew their rivalry. Nina will be there. Peabody Saugus, of course, will be Willie's terrain. Marblehead Swampscott, which we've talked about quite a bit, and myself doing Salem at Beverly, the game. Again, as Kook said, I think we'll have some heavy favorites in some of these matchups, but you never know. You'd think Hamilton, one of them would be a big favorite over a 1-win Ipswich team, but Ipswich is coming off their first win after 9 straight losses. What a way for them to end a season that they wouldn't necessarily have chosen, but to win 2 straight and you beat Hamilton Wenham on the holiday, that'd be a great win. I think Peabody's a big favorite over Saugus. I would say even though they have a lesser record, Beverly would be a big favorite over Salem, but you never know. You just never know. And that's what makes the Thanksgiving fun. It's why you still get decent crowds to these games. It's supposed to be a nice day. So I hope we do get a lot of people out there to catch these games, support the schools and the players, and send off most of these non-Super Bowl teams off on a good note for the 2021 season. Let's not forget, guys, even at the beginning of the year, we didn't know how this year was going to go. Were we going to have stoppages? Were there going to be COVID infected teams or games have to be canceled like we saw in the fall 2 season? It's been relatively smooth sailing, more than smooth sailing, no hiccups at all. So, let's end it on a good note and get out there and support the boys.
I know over the years we've seen teams on Thanksgiving. Phil, you and I have been at many of the same games years ago, but no matter what the records were, man, teams came to play and there was a lot of excitement. But I do have to say that I really do think this year's Marblehead Swampscott game has got to be a really special game this year. So with all the things that you guys have talked about, that's got to be a huge focal point.
In an era of dwindling crowds for these games, I would not be stunned if there were over 5,000 people in Swampscott. If you're not there by 9 o'clock, you're probably not getting in, to be honest with you.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to say we have less than 60 seconds, but is there somebody with something that they want to say to get it out here before Thanksgiving?
I just say tough week for those of us who are 5 games behind in the pick standings because there is not too many games.
I got more than 5.
Rounds. That's me and Nick Giannino. I think we're looking.
I got off to a hot start there, and it's been free falling ever since. I think I hit my first 4 upset picks, and I don't think I've hit one since.
It's a good point, though. I mean, unless there's some huge upsets on Thanksgiving, and you're gonna have to you're gonna have to maybe risk a few of these upsets and maybe try to get back into the hunt here.
You have to
I'll tell
start
you what,
to
though,
look,
I think-
Winthrop Revere and the classical English matchups. You got to look for, things there.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I see some tough games to pick real quick here. Obviously, Marblehead Swamps get very difficult. I think Fenwick and Bishop Fenwick and Malden Catholic is a toss-up. I think Essex Tech and Northeast is a tough one to pick. And I think St. John's Prep and Xaverian is a tough one to pick. So that's 4 swing games right there that, whoever gets their picks in first, there'll be some strategic maneuvers. People choosing those 4 games, not based on who they think might win, but based on how they can make up ground against their opponents. That's the chess match of the picks.
All right. On that note, we've got to stop, but happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.